Hey guys, welcome to Metal Emporium. Today I'm going to do part 2 to my Mercyful Fate series. I'm going to talk about all the Mercyful Fate offshoot bands and pre-Mercyful Fate bands. I'm going to start out with 1980 by the Brats. And this was the band that Hank Sherman and Michael Denner had pre-Mercyful Fate. They were actually considered a punk band, but to me it has more of a new wave of British metal sound. I mean, there's a little punkish type stuff in it, but it reminds me a lot of something like a band like Tank, kind of is what it reminds me of. But this album came out in 1980 on CBS Records. This is a 2019 reissue on the High Roller label. Very, very well done. Very nice package here. You've got the it's got a nice booklet in it that has a photo of the band, promo photo. The booklet's got lyrics and a little bio on the band. Really cool. And it actually has a poster, a fold-out poster of the album cover. But yeah, pretty cool stuff from the Brats, their debut record. Also from the Brats, this is an unofficial album here. This came out in 2010. So King Diamond eventually joins the band, and they start moving into more of the Mercyful Fate style of music. And this is 7 tracks recorded in their rehearsal room in Copenhagen, and it's titled 18th of January 1981, because that was the date it was recorded. And several of these songs would be reworked as Mercyful Fate classics through the years. Some of these recordings were ended up on the Curse of the Pharaohs album that I showed in the earlier episode. This one here, it had some of these Brats recordings as well as the Danger Zone demos. But yeah, this was cool to get, man. I really like this. There were actually 2 more songs that were recorded during this session, and for some reason they wouldn't fit on here, and they released those as a separate 7-inch single, and I need to pick that one up eventually, but it's got the same cover on the 7-inch. But yeah, this was pretty cool. Here we have King Diamond's No Presents for Christmas. This was the first release from the King Diamond band. It was released December 25th of 1985. Joining King was his new guitar player, Angela Rock, and coming over from Mercyful Fate, we had Michael Denner and Timmy Hansen, and also introduces his new drummer, Mickey D. Yeah, great track, No Presents for Christmas. Actually has the song Sherman on the B-side, which would be on the upcoming Fatal Portrait album. There's your back cover for that. I've seen alternate versions where this is considered the cover, but yeah, I always like this. This is an original Roadrunner pressing of No Presents for Christmas. And here's the debut album from King Diamond, Fatal Portrait. This is first pressing on the Roadrunner label. This is they actually changed up the logo on later pressings. This has the original multicolored logo, as you can see here. They eventually changed it all to yellow, but has cool photos of the band on the back. This was the first album I ever got by King Diamond. I actually had it on cassette. It was a Green World Productions cassette, I believe, that had been licensed from Roadrunner. The first 4 tracks and the track Haunted are actually a concept here. Sometimes it teeters between this one and Abigail, the follow-up, which is my favorite. But at this moment, I think I'm going to go with this one as my favorite King Diamond record. Like I said, this is an original pressing. This one actually, so you have the insert sheet here, lyrics, and the King Diamond symbol here. The original first pressings on the Run Out Groove part, you can't really see it here, but it's got etched in on one side. It says Mercyful Fate is dead, and then the other side it says Long Live King Diamond. Up next, I have the Halloween picture disc, and this is an original Roadrunner copy or Road Racer pressing from Europe. Green World Productions released it in the US, and it still had the same art. There's a little bit difference in the what's the copyrights and the logos and stuff. But yeah, this is the original one here. If I can get it the right direction here. This is the original one. Here's the back cover, group shot. This one, this is actually was a promo copy. It came in with this advanced reviewer copy. I guess it was sent out to press when the album came out. But this has the song Halloween, and the B-side has The Candle, which is from the album Fatal Portrait, and it has a non-LP track called The Lake. Moving on to 1987, this is the Abigail record, and this is an original first pressing on the Road Racer label here. Great concept record, so many great songs on this one. I think this is when he really started breaking ground in the US. They had the Family Ghost video on Headbangers Ball in pretty heavy rotation. But this is a great one. I love the back shots of the band. If you notice, Andy LaRocque is actually, his photo is actually reversed. He's not a left-handed guitarist. They fixed that on some later pressings. Has the original inner sleeve, lyrics. Then they had the photo here, which is in negative. They actually fixed that on later pressings as well. And speaking of the Family Ghost, this is the 12-inch single for the Family Ghost, original Road Racer pressing. And the B-side of this was a non-LP track called The Shrine. Here's the CDs for those first two albums. Here's the 1997 Road Racer reissue of Fatal Portrait. Like I said, they changed the logo to fully yellow there. And here's the 2005 CD edition on Roadrunner. This was really cool. This actually was a double CD like the Melissa that they did. And you got some bonus tracks included on here, some demos, and you have a live DVD that has the music videos, and it has a live show from Sweden in 1987. But yeah, that's the Abigail Deluxe. This is a really good one if you can still find them. Of course, Thomas Holm, who did the Melissa and Don't Break the Oath album covers, did the art for the Abigail album. In 1991, Road Racer issued a live album from the Abigail tour. And here is that. It's just a live show from the tour. Sounds great. They do a lot of great tracks on here. Actually, for the Abigail tour, Michael Denner had left the band after the release of the album, and he had been replaced with a touring guitarist named Michael Moon. Here's my 2020 repress of the Abigail Live album through Metal Blade Records. Up next, September of 1988, King Diamond releases the album Them. Another Thomas Holm artwork here on the cover of this one. This one would introduce guitarist Pete Black into the band and bassist Hal Patino. So this is a great concept story here, just a horrific tale of a young King Diamond, his grandmother in the teapot, and them, the evil spirits who haunt the house of Amen. Here's your back cover. Great shots of the band. Like I said, this is a first pressing on Roadrunner Records. You've got your inside cover here, lyrics. Now here's a cool piece. This is actually a promo record that was sent out to promote the album. This is it's called "It's Time for Tea," and it's the song "Tea," and it's on red vinyl, and got your label here. It's got a picture of King Diamond's face here on the other side. But yeah, this is pretty rare, pretty hard to find. Original copies actually came with a tea bag, actual tea bag. I didn't get that when I got this. Actually, my friend Mark Roper hooked me up with this. Very nice of him. And it came with like some promo materials and stuff. Actually, I heard it came with a T-shirt originally as well. But yeah, that was a really cool piece for me to add to my collection, and really happy to get this one, the T single. Here's the 1997 reissue of the Them album on Road Racer Records. And this one's actually got a couple of bonus tracks on, a couple of demo tracks. But yeah, Them, great record. Next up, in 1988, King Diamond released an EP called The Dark Sides through Road Racer. And this one is just a compilation of some of the B-sides, along with a couple of cool King Diamond tracks. You've got Halloween, Them, No Presents for Christmas, Shrine, The Lake, and Phone Call. Phone Call's really eerie. It goes along with the Them story. There's the back of that. Like I said, this is an original Road Racer copy of that EP. And here's the CD for that. Okay, coming into 1989, we have the continuation of the Them story. This one's called Conspiracy. This takes up a few years later in the future, but it continues the story of King Diamond and the House of Amen. So they put King Diamond on the cover for this. Here's your back cover here with the band members standing over the coffin. And if I remember right, King was burned alive in the coffin during the live shows. But like I said, they put King on the cover of this. Let me show you the inside. This is an original first pressing. So you've got your lyric sheet inside, some details and so forth here. But they also included this this little insert, which was supposedly going to be the original cover art for the album. This was a Thomas Home drawing here, and I don't know why they didn't end up using it, but supposedly it was supposed to fit up on the cover here, of course, but they decided to put King on the cover. There's a Korean pressing that I've seen that's actually just got the King Diamond logo done here in the middle. Here's a 1997 reissue on Roadrunner, and it actually has a couple of bonus tracks, some alternate mixes, and the CD version. Got something cool to show you here. So, I was telling you about, I saw Mercyful Fate on the In the Shadows tour, and I got that Don't Break the Oath album cover autograph that I showed on the last episode. Well, I also got King to autograph this Conspiracy picture disc. And he actually wrote on the album, he wrote on the vinyl with a Sharpie, and it kind of ran in the grooves a little bit, but it's still very legible. You can read. He signed his name and he wrote, "I hate Dr. Landau," who is one of the evil characters in the story of Conspiracy. But yeah, this was really cool to get. Here's a cool unofficial live album. It's on the Reek of Death Records, another one of their cool album cover arts here. And this was actually recorded in 1988 live in Detroit. It's a double album. It's on, I think it's on purple vinyl. Yep. And it's an audience recording. I'd probably give it a B+ in quality. It's listenable. Not the greatest in sound, but really cool to have. Yeah, it's cool photos on the back. And that's pretty much all the King Diamond releases that I have on vinyl. The rest are on CD. This is the album The Eye. It was released in 1990. And this is actually a 1997 remastered version through Road Racer. And it's a cool story on this one. They actually replaced Mickey D with the drummer Snowy Shaw, which I remember when this first came out, a lot of people were saying that it was a drum machine on here, so it's still, the jury's still out on that one. But anyhow, Mickey D was out. He, of course, would go on to join Dokken and then Motorhead for years, and then, of course, he's in the Scorpions in more recent years. But yeah, there were some cool tracks on this one. Eye of the Witch, which King still plays in concert to this day. But yeah, cool record, The Eye. 1992, Road Racer releases A Dangerous Meeting, which is a compilation best of King Diamond and Mercyful Fate. 7 Mercyful Fate tracks and 9 King Diamond tracks. So King had gone off to do Mercyful Fate again for a few years. So finally comes back in 1995 with The Spider's Lullaby, and he was on a new record label then. He was on Metal Blade Records. Now, this band consisted of King and guitarist Angela Rock. They had recruited some new members from the band Mindstorm. Mindstorm was a band out of Texas, and King Diamond had actually relocated to Texas, to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, to be specific. He has Herb Simonson on guitar, Chris East on bass, and Darren Anthony on drums. In 2009, they did a remastered version of this album, and they changed the cover art. In 1996, they released The Graveyard through Metal Blade Records. Same lineup, stayed for this particular one. This is actually an advanced promo copy in the little slipcase cover. It's just the way they came. I was writing for a zine, and they would hook me up with promos to review. Same goes for this one. This is a promo copy, 1998's Voodoo. Just a little advanced promo here. I actually still have the bio sheets that was sent from Metal Blade to me that I kept with that one. They actually had a new drummer on this one. It was John Luke Herbert from the band Chastain came in on drums. Dimebag Darrell actually plays a solo on this for the song Voodoo. That's Dimebag on the solo for that track. I actually saw this tour May 14th, 1998 at Jack's in Springfield, Virginia. Glenn Drover had replaced Herb Simonson on guitar for the North American tour. Glenn went on to play on the next album, House of God. Of course, he'd go on to be in Megadeth and several other bands. I took some photos at the show that I'll post up here. Now, I mentioned the album House of God. I don't have that particular record. For some reason, I had it at one point. Don't know what happened to it. I do have this one. This was 2002. King came back with this album on Metal Blade Records, Abigail 2. And it was a continuation of the Abigail tale, joining King and Angela Rock in this revamped lineup was the returning bassist Hal Patino and guitarist Mike Weed, who had recently joined Mercyful Fate. He comes in on guitar, second guitar, and drummer Matt Thompson comes in for drums. I can't really say I was really excited. I was actually excited about this album coming out with the news, but once I got it and played it a few times, it doesn't even come close to the brilliance of the original Abigail album. Now, that lineup would stay together, and in 2003 they would record the album The Puppet Master, which was released through Metal Blade Records. This is a pretty cool tale. This is the deluxe CD version. It came with a DVD. The DVD portion is just King actually transcribing the story to you. He's sitting in a room in the dark with candles, all evil looking, and telling you the story here of the Puppet Master. I actually saw him on tour for this one at Jack's. I think Entombed was the opening band when I saw him. And I saw him again, I think in 2007 with the follow-up album, which was called Give Me Your Soul Please, that was released through Metal Blade. I don't have a copy of that anymore for some reason. But I did get to see King several times after that through the years. I think I saw him in 2014. He had actually been taking a pretty long break there and gone through a lot of things in his life, including a heart attack. But yeah, he came back in 2014. I saw him up in Silver Springs, Maryland. That was a great comeback show. In 2019, I saw him at this opera house in Maryland. That was a great place to see a King Diamond show. And I actually splurged on it. I mean, I had like really good seats. I was like on third row. I bought the meet and greet package that came with the ticket. It actually had the meet and greet and the ticket was all combined together, and it was a good price. I went for it and got a chance to meet King and the band. And they gave us this poster that was autographed. They gave us several things. They gave us this little tin with some pics in it, and just several other little odds and ends. A scarf, a King Diamond scarf, just hanging up in here in this room. But this photo poster, that is all the tour dates, and all the band members autographed it. And I took some pictures with the band, and I put those, and I put my little meet and greet pass in there, and just to put it all in the frame as a keepsake. And in October of last year, 2024, I actually saw him again. Great show. He did a tour with Overkill supporting, and Night Demon. But yeah, that was a really good show. I'll throw some pictures up from that. So yeah, continuing on here in 2018 through Metal Blade, King released this live DVD sets called Songs for the Dead, and it's 2 live shows. It's one from 2016 at the Grasshop Metal Meeting. I think that was in Belgium. And then he's got one from 2015 live from the Fillmore in Philadelphia from the US tour. And it's, like I said, 2 DVDs, 2 shows, and it actually has a CD with live recordings on it from these shows as well. Here's a cool one that Metal Blade released. This actually came out in 2001, and this takes us back to the pre-Mercyful Fate days again, and actually pre-Brats days for King. This was King Diamond's one of his first bands. It's called Black Rose, and Metal Blade released this CD. It's a live recording from a rehearsal that they did. It's called 20 Years Ago, A Night of Rehearsals. So this was recorded in September of 1980. Now, Black Rose was a 5-piece band that was heavily influenced by Deep Purple, Kansas, and Uriah Heep, and you can definitely hear those influences in there. They put on a very theatrical stage show. King even started wearing makeup and costumes back then. But this is 11 original songs and a cover of the Golden Earring classic Radar Love. It sounds great. It's really cool to hear what King was doing way back then. Black Rose, 20 Years, A Night of Rehearsal. Okay, so we're going to go into the post bands for the other members of Mercyful Fate. So Hank Sherman ended up wanting to go more commercial. There's always been the tales of that's why Mercyful Fate broke up, because Hank Sherman was bringing in all this really commercial material that had nothing to do with Mercyful Fate, according to King. And so King and, like I said, Michael Denner and Timmy Hansen kind of went off, did the King Diamond thing. Hank decided to go into more commercial direction, and he released his first album here. This is just self-titled Fate. Came out in 1985. That was the back cover of the CD here is actually what the cover of the album was originally. This reissue of it that I have here, I think this is a reissue of I think it came out in 2000 on Riptide Records. But yeah, they're pretty slick looking group here. Looks more in line with Bon Jovi or something that would Mercyful Fate. But the drummer in the band was Jarn T. Holmes, who eventually would join Mercyful Fate. Except he went under a different name. He goes under the name Bob Lance for some reason. But you see they're a happy looking bunch here. This stuff is very much like the band Europe is kind of what it reminds me of. The more commercial Europe stuff like Final Countdown and the Superstitious album and all that. It's just Out of This World album, I think is the title. More in line with that. It fits in well with like the melodic bands from Europe at the time, like Treat and Bonfire. The second album, which is called A Matter of Attitude, is even more commercial and poppy. It kind of reminds me of a band called Easy Action that Key Marcello from Europe played in once. And the singer, his voice kind of reminds me of Davey Vane of the band Vane. But this isn't bad stuff. I mean, if you like AOR, commercial hard rock, you might like this stuff. I like it because I like that kind of stuff as well as the heavy stuff. But yeah, cool band. I used to have this one on vinyl, and I ended up trading it. Kind of hating I did now, but I've got the first 2 on CD. So here's a really interesting one. This band is called Zoser Mez. And this one's called Visor of Wasteland. This was released in 1991, and it was actually the band put it out themselves. They self-released it. So Hank Sherman and Michael Denner got back together, started writing some music that sounded more in line with what Mercyful Fate were doing. And they have a singer named Lou Brook or something, I can't really pronounce his name, and we're Gang on bass. But the drums on this were actually done by Morton Nielsen, who was the drummer who did the tracks on the In the Shadows album from Mercyful Fate. But yeah, this sounds a lot like what you would hear in the future of Mercyful Fate. So much to the point where I think when King Diamond heard this, he wanted to work with these guys again, and that's kind of what planted the seed for Mercyful Fate's reunion and them doing the In the Shadows album. But yeah, there's some really good stuff on this. They do a cover of Mesmeration Eclipse by Captain of Beyond, and they do a remake of Desecration of Souls on this one. So moving forward some years later to the year 2003, Mercyful Fate had kind of been on hiatus for a while, and Hank Sherman reached out to Michael Denner, and they formed a new band, and that band was called Force of Evil, and they released this album in 2003. Just self-titled Force of Evil, and Jordan T. Holmes would join them on drums in this, as well as Hal Patino on bass, and they brought in Martin Steen on vocals, but he's a really good singer. He was in the Danish power metal band Iron Fire, and he now fronts the legendary Danish thrash group Artillery. But yeah, they did this record in 2003. And then in 2005, they released Black Empire. Both of these were on the Escapee label. And I've had some of this playing here in the background during this episode. They also released a live DVD that I thought I had in my collection somewhere, but I couldn't locate it. But moving forward a few years, Denner and Sherman hooked back up again, and they formed the group just titled Denner Sherman. They got Snowy Shaw in on drums, and they got Sean Peck in on vocals from the US band Cage. They released an EP in 2015 called Satan's Tomb, and then in 2016 they did this full-length album, Masters of Evil, and it was distributed through Metal Blade Records. Of course, the artwork looks really familiar here. That's some Thomas Holm art there, for sure, to the point where I think King Diamond kind of got pissed off with him about this art being kind of close to Mercyful Fate's works. But this definitely sounds a lot like Mercyful Fate, for sure. I mean, it should, just the two main guitar players. As much as I really wanted to like this stuff, there's some good tracks on it, but I just was not sold on Sean Peck's vocals with these guys. I kind of wish they had got a different singer. I think I may would have liked it a little better. But I like Peck in Cage. He sounds great there. But on this particular one, it just didn't sell it to me, you know. So in 2019, Michael Denner comes back with Denner's Inferno, and they released this EP, Fountains of Grace. Now the drummer on this is Mercyful Fate's Jordan T. Holmes, and Michael found a great singer in Chandler Mogul. I'm a big fan of that guy. He's a great singer. He sang with a Greek band called Out Loud that I just love. And he did Punky Meadow from Angels solo album. He was the lead vocalist on that. And he currently fronts a band called Double Vision, which is a Foreigner tribute band, but they actually do original music as well. Now this was a cool EP. It was just 3 songs. It included a cover of Montrose's Rock Candy. And I gotta say, this is pretty much a good 70s style hard rock record. Michael Denner is very influenced by Michael Schenker from UFO, and so that influence definitely shines in this project. In 2019, they released the album In Amber, And this was a full-length album made up of original tracks and some cool covers. They do Matriarch by Montrose on here. They do a Tempest cover called Up and On. They do Taxman, Mr. Thief from Cheap Trick. They do a Streetwalkers track called Run for Cover, and Loser by Trapeze. In Amber by Dinner's Inferno. Here's your insert shot of the band. And to finish out here, here's a cool one that I actually got recently from my buddy King Filey. This is a band called Geisha, and they were a Swedish-Danish band. The album's called Phantasmagoria. Pretty wicked album cover here. And these guys were pretty wild looking bunch. And this is an EP. Interesting about this, what makes it connected to Mercyful Fate is, well, one, the lead singer is Jens, who was the singer in Brats on that 1980 Brats album I just showed earlier. So he's the lead singer here. And the guitarist is Pete Black, who did the Them and Conspiracy albums with King. This is good, just heavy rock with balls. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the US bands like Warrior and Icon. I was researching a little history on this band on Metal Archives and found out that both Hal Patino and Mickey D both spent short periods in this group. This one's from 1987 on the FM Records label. So that's going to do it for this episode of Metal Emporium. Thanks for everybody that has subscribed to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, hit that like and subscribe button and leave us some comments, and come back and see us next time right here on Metal Emporium. Stay metal.